Hi, Barbie. So, I saw the Barbie movie, obviously, and I have thoughts on it, obviously. Before I really get into it, though, I do want to say that the revenue from this video will be donated to the Entertainment Community Fund to support film and television workers who are currently unable to work due to the ongoing strike. Movies like Barbie are only possible thanks to the work of incredible artists who, frankly, deserve better than they've been given. So if you're in a position to, I encourage you to also donate. I will leave a link down below or find other ways to support their cause. Also, I want to say I'm not really someone who identifies as like a professional movie reviewer. I'm a professional in the sense that I'm extremely opinionated and annoying over media that I enjoy, but I don't exactly have what you would call refined tastes. My favorite movies are Aquamarine and the Dead or Alive live-action movie. I am not at all the authority on what's a good movie and a bad one, okay? But that won't stop me from talking about it. So, Barbie. You may not know this about me, but I do consider myself a pretty big fan of Barbie, which honestly, I feel like at this point is kind of like saying that I'm a pretty big fan of ice water or sliced bread. Which, don't get me wrong, I love that Barbie is getting so much love and attention lately. I was recently in New York City, which is why I didn't upload last week, and going through Times Square, just walking around and seeing everyone's pink outfits and Barbie cosplays, shopping the Barbie collabs in all the stores, it was absolutely magical. If I've learned anything this past week, it's that I am absolutely not immune to multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns. So, suffice to say, I was pretty hyped for this movie, and it's difficult to say if I had any particular expectations for it, because Mattel and we have a complicated relationship. Barbara, Miss Roberts, if you will, we have a pretty complicated relationship too. If you're a frequent viewer, you know that I am not always the happiest with how Barbie has been treated and marketed by Mattel the last few years. In fact, I do have a whole video over that exact topic. Wow, how convenient, right? But going in, I had two really big fears for this movie. Speaking purely as someone who is a doll collector and is kind of insane about dolls, I guess you could say more invested in this than the average person would be. But basically, what I was most afraid of was, one, that this movie wouldn't really feel made for me as an active fan of Barbie, that it would be really surface level and not really engage with Barbie as a brand or any of her history, and would basically have the energy of like a Saturday Night Live sketch. Or two, that it would be really self-important on Mattel's part and would just be like patting their own backs on how progressive and innovative they are for how they've changed and updated Barbie for the modern world. And I'll say, I think neither of those fears came completely true. And although I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, the movie surprised me quite a bit. And as far as this video goes, I'm just going to structure it the usual way. For the first part, I'll talk very generally and spoiler-free, and then afterwards, I'll put a notice for spoilers and then get into a more detailed discussion, what I thought of the plot and such. So I am a Virgo, and I did take notes in the theater, because I can't exactly go back and reference any of the movie. I just have my own memory to go off of. Which also to say, this won't be a very intricately edited video. Putting actual footage of the movie is very illegal and kind of impossible right now. But there's a few of you out there who like looking at my face, so I guess it's okay. I had to go alone, and I can't remember the last time I bought movie theater food for myself. So my first note is, why is a medium soda $8? And then I wrote, that Illumination Duck movie had a lot of nerve putting a Destiny's Child song in their trailer. Anyways, Barbie. So on a purely technical level, I think the Barbie movie was one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. I do have a background in costume design. I've mentioned that before. So that's always something I personally pay really close attention to. And the costuming in Barbie was, in a word, phenomenal. And that's important, right? Like, a Barbie movie has to have good costuming. And that probably doesn't come as a shock. I feel like we've been praising Barbie's outfits, like, non-stop. But truly, the decisions that went into dressing not only Barbie, but, well, the Barbies, were so smart and so well done and added so much to the movie. But not just the outfits, the sets, the effects, just everything aesthetically was so incredible. The practical sets for the dream houses and Barbie Land in general were insane. And I'm so happy they decided to go for practical over CGI because it needed that. CGI absolutely wouldn't have had the same visual effects. From the trailers, I was kind of worried that we would only spend like maybe the first 15 minutes in Barbie Land and then the rest of the movie would be in the real world. But that's not really the case. We do see a lot of Barbie Land in the movie, and I can't wait to watch the movie again because I feel like every shot in Barbie Land, there's going to be some new, really fun detail to see, so all I can say is phenomenal work there. And the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie were probably my favorite part, and that's not to say that it, like, goes downhill from there. I just think the way it set up the movie, the way it showed off Barbie Land and all the Barbies, the humor, the music, it was all so great, just so great. And I think the performances, like, across the board were pretty awesome. Margot and Ryan are clearly big standouts. I really couldn't imagine anyone else being Barbie and Ken after having watched them, but all the supporting actors are really good too. Everyone who played a Barbie or a Ken, they played their roles with such sincerity, and everyone had such incredible chemistry that I could absolutely tell that they were just having so much fun shooting this movie. And to talk about the plot a little, I think the trailers for the movie were really well done because they really did show off just enough of the movie without giving away the entire experience. The movie really did not go in the direction I expected it to. In fact, a lot of the movie was really unexpected, and I think that's one of my biggest compliments I can give it, that it surprised me. Because I've always thought of Mattel as a company to be really protective and really particular about Barbie's image, because historically they have been. So the fact they were able to loosen the reins on Barbie enough to allow this specific movie to be made, honestly, I feel like I have to commend them on that. Because there's a level of self-awareness in this movie that is both self-aggrandizing while also being self-deprecating, and it's really difficult to describe, but it was really unexpected, and for the purpose of the movie, it worked really well. Which, speaking of, I really enjoyed the humor in this movie too. And there were a few jokes that didn't really land for me. I just thought they were kind of low-hanging fruit as far as the Barbie humor goes. But for the most part, I was laughing a lot. Sometimes I think I was the only one laughing, because some of the humor, just a little bit of it, might go over people's heads if they're not, how do you say, well read on the Barbie lore. They really did do their research. I will say the movie is very much not for children. I mean, PG-13, so obviously. I think kids could watch it and be fine, but you will probably have to answer some uncomfortable questions afterwards. It's also not a movie that's very concerned with, like, consistent world building or explaining things in general. It even outright says several times, just don't think about it. Could that be described as lazy? Probably. But I actually kind of like that about the movie. I feel like it was pretty intentional, you know? It kind of harks back to the way we make up stories with our toys as kids and didn't need to factor in logic to every little thing. As far as the movie and how it engages with Barbie's history, I think it did a pretty good job. There were a lot of cute nods to Barbie history, like, for example, there was a Mount Rushmore shot that had the first Barbie, first Christy, Kira, and Teresa on it. I do wish there were more references to, like, specific dolls. There were a few that were really cool to see, but it was definitely more interested in referencing, like, the failed or the controversial Barbies than it was more iconic or historical Barbies, but I guess that's fine. It was definitely more of a movie about Barbie just as a general concept rather than who and where she is right now as a character, but I think that's a good thing. One, because we really did not need a movie starring Millie, and two, it means the movie is pretty timeless. It's definitely not heralding, like, a new age or big rebranding for Barbie, I don't think. But it also didn't make a point of saying that Barbie, where she is right now, is the only place she should be. It'll probably hit the hardest for people who grew up with Barbie in, like, the 80s, you know, millennials. But I also kind of think that's who the movie is specifically targeting. It's hard to say a whole lot more, because my complaints and my issues with the movie, they are mostly plot related. I did have some issues with the writing. I just thought a lot of the dialogue was very heavy-handed. Like, one of the movie's favorite running jokes is Barbie just saying very complex sentences. Like, that's it. Just the fact she can be very verbose and speak very fast. And Margot Robbie is an extremely gifted comedic actress, but after, like, the fourth or fifth time, I was like, okay, we get it. And there's lots of big dialogue about feminism and what it means to be a woman in society, or a mother, what it means to be Barbie. And it's not that I ever disagreed at any point with what they were saying. It was more that it just felt kind of out of place and unnatural in context, you know? And this is a movie that had a lot to say. I mean, a lot. But what exactly it wanted to say, I honestly could not tell you. The messaging in this movie was weird. It was very, very weird. On the surface, it's very much a social commentary on feminism and the patriarchy. It's also a movie about childhood innocence and change and accepting reality. It's about motherhood. It's about how society projects its issues instead of trying to solve them, and honestly, probably some other things. And I love so much that it was able to use Barbie, of all things, to showcase these themes, but there was just, I don't know, so much. And it's weird, because the movie was incredibly not subtle in what it was trying to say, because the characters literally, out loud, in grand speeches, say all these things, but at the same time, I still can't tell you what the thesis, the central idea, the core of the movie was. I really have no idea. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because, on one hand, the plot felt pretty disjointed and like it was trying to do too much. It went in a lot of different directions with not a lot of payoff. And at times it was like I could physically feel the struggle between Greta and Mattel on how to do a particular scene. Like, Greta wanted to say one thing, but Mattel wanted to say another, and in the end, neither of them really said anything. But on the other hand, that's kind of fitting, right? Because this is a movie about Barbie. The posters say it outright. She's everything. She represents everything good about society. She's everything wrong with society. She's feminist. She's anti-feminist. She's inspiring. She's a hollow corporate creation. And the movie really does engage with that in some pretty clever ways. It opens up a lot of interesting discussions. And maybe it makes sense that not every single plot point is wrapped up perfectly, because just like society, Barbie is always evolving. Her journey is never ending. But what I think I appreciated most about the movie is that it acknowledged all these criticisms of Barbie, and it also acknowledged that she's not really the problem. The problem is the way all these ideals are projected onto her, because that's exactly what I've been trying to say for so long. And to see that literally visually represented in a movie, in the Barbie movie, oh my god, it was so incredibly gratifying. I won't go into details yet, but by far, my biggest complaint is the ending. I just thought it was so weird and so jarring, and I don't know, it didn't really fit the rest of the movie, not tonally or writing wise or even aesthetically. It truly just felt like the last 5 minutes or so were a different movie entirely. Definitely the weakest part for me. So I do think, overall, the movie is a really wonderful celebration of Barbie, of her history, of her journey. It was so well put together and fun to watch, and I have complaints, I have issues, but none of those complaints are that the movie was boring. At no point was I bored or not entertained. Confused? Maybe, but never bored. From start to finish, I was smiling, or laughing, or admiring something, or wiping a little tear, but I was completely engaged the entire way through. And for me, as a viewer, that's what I consider a success. And I also came away from the movie with a lot of interesting questions and discussions, ones that I did not expect to have with the Barbie movie. So in that sense, yes, I liked the movie. I think I would give it a 7, maybe 8 out of 10. A 7.5, I guess. Not perfect, not life-changing, but a lot of the issues I'm honestly willing to overlook because it's so well put together and fun. It's very easy to watch, and objectively it's very entertaining, but it has a good amount of depth to it too. This will probably not be the last video I make over the movie. Once it comes out physically, I would love to revisit and be able to go into it in more depth, to talk about the costuming, details some people might have missed, to talk about it in the grand scheme of Barbie's history and evolution, all that fun stuff. But for now, I'm gonna put a little warning for those of you that haven't watched yet, that the next portion of the video will contain spoilers. So if you've yet to watch Barbie, just pause the video, put on your pinkest outfit, go to the nearest theater, have a meltdown and cry because you were too late and they sold out of all the exclusive Barbie movie merch, watch the movie, and then come back here and have a little chat with me. So, spoiler topic number 1. Why did Midge get a poster but not a single line? Also, according to the narrator, a pregnant doll was too weird. I didn't like that. Justice for Midge. Speaking of, though, one of the biggest highlights for me was seeing all the quote-unquote controversial Barbies in Weird Barbie's house. Like, Earring Magic Ken. Yeah, easy mode. I fully expected to see him in there, but Tanner the dog, Video Girl Barbie, Sugar Daddy Ken, that was great. I did find it funny that they wouldn't let Earring Magic Ken wear the actual necklace, though. He just had a pendant that said Barbie on it. Like, sure, President Barbie can drop an F-bomb, that's fine, but Earring Magic Ken cannot wear a chrome ring. That's taking it too far. Going off my points from earlier, a lot of the movie I did honestly think felt very disjointed. And I think one reason why is that for a long stretch of the film, it just didn't feel like a Barbie movie. It felt like a Ken movie. And that's not a bad thing. Just like Margot, Ryan is impeccable in the role. But there was a point where I was like, okay, can we get back to Barbie? Can we see what she's up to, maybe? Because Ken is basically the antagonist of the movie, and we get to see him go on this big emotional journey of self-acceptance, but we don't really get that with Barbie. I mean, we do to some extent, but it felt like most of that for Barbie happened off-screen. Especially when we get to the ending and she suddenly decides she doesn't want to be a Barbie anymore. I just don't think enough of that emotional journey was shown for us. It really felt like it came out of nowhere, and personally, I didn't really see how it added to Barbie's character or how it was a good conclusion for her. I don't think it was a bad decision, just a confusing one for me. I think a better ending would have been seeing Barbie or Gloria or both of them now on the corporate Mattel team, because they had the whole acknowledgement of how it's made entirely up of men, so that would have been a really cool full circle moment. And Gloria seemed like she wanted to work on creating Barbie, so that would have been a pretty meaningful ending for her character arc, but I don't know. Also, that line where Gloria tells the Mattel CEO that she wants an ordinary Barbie got me so heated. Worst part of the movie by far. Girl, if you want an ordinary Barbie who looks like she's unsatisfied with her life, go to Walmart and buy a fashionista. We've been doing ordinary Barbie for going on almost a decade now. Like, you're supposed to be a Mattel employee and you think that's the big revolutionary idea? Be for real. Ruth Handler showing up at the end was fun, though. I think it was a pretty good portrayal of the kind of person she was, and a way to honor her contribution to Barbie. I do think it's interesting that they mentioned the whole tax evasion thing, but not that she plagiarized Barbie's likeness from another doll, but I guess I can only ask for so much. On a different note, there's a lot of controversy about the movie supposedly being, like, super anti-man and implies all men are evil and oppressive, but that's not really the takeaway I got. Honestly, I think the whole feminism message could have gone further. I just found it pretty surface level compared to some of the other themes the movie had. The movie opened a lot of conversations about the patriarchy and gender roles, but it didn't really finish them. And I still don't know if I loved or hated that about it, because, let's be honest, there's just an inherent camp when it comes to sitting down with a friend and discussing the socio-political significance of gender dynamics in Barbie Land. How, as a matriarchy, all the Barbies uplifted each other and celebrated their accomplishments without factoring in men as essential to their lives. But in order to function as a patriarchy, Barbie Land had to actively oppress and devalue its female citizens. But then, that begs the question, right? How exactly did Ken manage to brainwash the Barbies into servitude? Why did they include a scene that implied Mattel, as a company, was more successful when they started prioritizing Ken over Barbie? Was it intentional social commentary on the movie's behalf to make Barbie the crutch of Ken's emotional journey while denying her, the central character, valuable screen time and character development? Was Alan queer-coded? I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you, but what I do know is that I will be having the time of my life talking about this movie for probably years to come. I just wish the ending was a little better. Or not even that, just that it had more build-up. Because watching that scene, it did genuinely feel like I missed a huge chunk of the movie. And maybe I did when I was writing notes, I don't know, but I just didn't think it was a satisfying ending. When I first watched it, I thought the implication was that Barbie wanted to become a mother, and I was like, what? That's where we're going? Looking back now, maybe that's not what they were trying to imply. Still, though, I think it could have been done better, especially with the groundwork the movie laid with all these interesting discussions about who Barbie is, what Barbie means. There are so many different routes they could have gone. And it's not that I don't get it. It's that I don't get it. And I understand it's because everyone projected these things onto her. Ken saw her as an object of desire. People in the real world objectified her. The Mattel CEO literally objectified her. Sasha told her she represented everything wrong with the society, and she wanted to escape all that and just be her own person, but I feel like, I don't know, ending the Barbie movie by having Barbie literally stop being Barbie, it has a lot of weird, possibly negative implications that I don't think were intentional. But at the same time, it's also very poignant if you look at it from the angle of a movie about a woman learning to take agency of herself and her body. And that circles back to how, even if I didn't like a certain thing, there's still so much material of it to digest and discuss and think about, and that's still very much something to appreciate, especially from Barbie. So, bottom line, do I think the movie needed some improvements? Yeah, definitely. Do I think its flaws make it a bad movie? Not at all. It's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. It has an incredible cast and some excellent production value. It has some muddy messaging, to say the least, despite being pretty overbearing with its themes and its dialogue. But there's so much about it that is just really fun and really engaging to talk about. It has a lot of heart and a lot of depth, and it took Barbie to some really unexpected places without feeling like a parody. It had some important things to say, and although it didn't say them in the most elegant way, it's a movie that I think is still going to resonate with a lot of people, whether they're big fans of Barbie or not. So yes, I would absolutely classify Barbie as a good movie. A Darling Dolls certified film. But now it's your turn. Go down to that comment section and tell me all your thoughts on the film. What you loved, what you hated, what you wish they did differently. Because like I've said, basically, throughout this whole review, this is a movie that is just incredibly fun to talk about, so I'm excited to see everyone's thoughts on it. But as always, thank you so much for watching. And when you're done with all of that, just be sure to like and subscribe for any future Fashion Doll content. Thank you!